What if I told you that the same bloodline that survived 5 centuries of occupation, endured Nazi death camps, and emerged from NATO bombs falling on their capital, would produce 3 men who would literally change the world forever? This is the story of Serbia, a nation forged in fire, and 3 sons who carried their ancestors' unbreakable spirit to global stages where they would rewrite history itself. Picture this. It's 1389, and on a blood-soaked field called Kosovo, Serbian Tsar Lazar makes a choice that will echo through centuries. He chooses heavenly glory over earthly kingdom, knowing it means death, but believing it means immortality for his people's soul. What he couldn't have imagined was that this moment of sacrifice would birth a national character so resilient, so defiant, that it would survive everything history could throw at it. But here's where our story takes its first shocking turn. That legendary defiance. It was about to face its greatest test. The year 1459 arrives like a death sentence. Ottoman Turkish forces sweep across Serbian lands like a dark tide, and suddenly, the heirs of Kosovo's heroes find themselves trapped in an empire that wants to erase their very identity. Children are stolen from their families, forced to convert, trained to fight against their own people. The Serbian language is banned. Their churches become mosques. Their culture goes underground. Most nations would have disappeared. Most peoples would have forgotten who they were. But here's what makes this story absolutely mind-blowing. The Serbs didn't just survive, they turned their oppression into their superpower. For 500 years, Serbian mothers whispered epic poems to their children in secret. 500 years of keeping their language alive in hidden corners. 500 years of preserving their Orthodox faith, despite death being the penalty. They developed something psychologists now recognize as post-traumatic growth on a massive scale. Every generation that survived became stronger, more determined, more united than the last. Then comes plot twist number 2 that nobody saw coming. The 20th century arrives, and with it, World War I. Serbia, this tiny nation that had just broken free from Ottoman chains, suddenly finds itself facing the mighty Austro-Hungarian Empire. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo lights the fuse of global war, but here's the part they don't teach you in history class. Serbia, outnumbered 10-1, fought so ferociously that they initially drove the Austrians back across the border. But the story gets darker before it gets brighter. World War II brings Nazi occupation, and the Serbian people face their Holocaust. Concentration camps at Jasanovac become synonyms for horror. Entire villages are wiped from the map. Yet even in humanity's darkest hour, Serbian resistance fighters, the Cetniks and Partisans, tie down entire German divisions that could have changed the outcome of the war. Here's where our narrative takes its most incredible turn. From this crucible of suffering, this legacy of survival against impossible odds, emerge 3 men who will carry their ancestors' indomitable spirit to heights no one could have imagined. First, there's Nikola Tesla, born in 1856. Man, that invented 20th century. This man didn't just think outside the box, he obliterated the box entirely. While the world was still marveling at Edison's direct current, Tesla was already dreaming in alternating current, bringing us the power generators we use today. He envisioned a world powered by wireless electricity, by machines that could think, by technology that seemed like magic. His Serbian upbringing, steeped in epic poetry and mystical Orthodox traditions, gave him a mind that could see patterns others couldn't even imagine. Every time you flip the switch, use your car's remote, see the neon lights, or get an X-ray, just to name a few, you're experiencing the genius of a Serbian immigrant who refused to let anyone limit his dreams. But the story doesn't end there. Fast forward to the 1990s, and Serbia faces its modern trial by fire. NATO bombs rain down on Belgrade in 1999. As Serbia refuses the unlawful separation of Kosovo, the world watches as a proud nation is again brought to its knees. Families huddle in basements while their infrastructure crumbles above them. NATO and its allies bombed Serbia for 80 days straight. Many believed this would finally break the Serbian spirit. They couldn't have been more wrong. From those basement shelters emerged a generation that would show the world what Serbian resilience really means. Enter Novak Djokovic, a boy who practiced tennis in empty swimming pools while bombs fell around Belgrade. His parents sold everything they had to fund his tennis dreams. He trained on broken courts with makeshift equipment, but he carried something more powerful than any fancy facility could provide: the Serbian soul that simply refuses to quit. Watch Djokovic on a tennis court, especially when he's behind, especially when the crowd is against him, especially when everyone has written him off. That's 500 years of Serbian defiance compressed into every backhand, every impossible return, every moment when he turns certain defeat into stunning victory. He doesn't just play tennis, he channels the spirit of Tsar Lazar, choosing glory over surrender. Meanwhile, in basketball, another Serbian giant was rising. Nikola Jokic, a chubby kid from Sombor, who nobody thought would amount to much, was quietly developing a basketball IQ that would revolutionize the game. Like Tesla seeing electricity patterns others couldn't perceive, Jokic sees basketball plays unfolding before they happen. He passes the ball like he's conducting a symphony, seeing harmonies and rhythms invisible to everyone else. Here's what makes this absolutely incredible. Both Djokovic and Jokic reached the absolute pinnacle of their sports, both becoming undisputed #1 in the world, both carrying Serbian flags to heights their ancestors could only dream of. They took the resilience forged in Ottoman dungeons and Nazi camps and channeled it into sporting excellence that defied every odd. But this story isn't really about tennis or basketball or even electrical engineering. It's about what happens when you refuse to let circumstances define your destiny. The Serbian people turned their suffering into strength, their oppression into opportunity, their pain into power. Today, as you watch Djokovic break yet another tennis record or Jokic orchestrate another impossible victory, you're witnessing living proof that the human spirit cannot be conquered. You're seeing what happens when a people choose to remember not just their wounds, but their warrior heart. The Serbian story teaches us that survival isn't enough. Triumph is the only acceptable ending. Whether you're facing personal struggles, professional setbacks, or seemingly impossible odds, remember the Serbian example. 5 centuries of occupation couldn't break them. Nothing can break you either. Their secret: they never forgot who they were.